Here's how to automate YouTube uploads from Google Drive in a way that actually works. Most approaches fail due to timeouts and API quota issues, but I'm going to show you a method that is bulletproof, handles large video files well, costs nothing, and has worked consistently across hundreds of uploads. First though, if you're planning to use something like Zapier or Make, there's 3 problems you're likely going to run into. So let me explain those, then I'll show you how to get around them. So Zapier has a 3-minute execution limit when uploading videos. Now, a 1 GB video file takes about 4 to 5 minutes to upload. So that math does not math, and it's the main reason why your uploads will time out and fail when using Zapier. The YouTube API does technically have a feature to get around this called resumable uploads, which breaks the large video file down into chunks, but Zapier doesn't actually use this. Now, Make.com is slightly better because it's got a 45-minute execution limit, but it's got a different issue, which is cost. To upload video files as large as 1 GB, you'd need to be on their enterprise plan. The data transfer limits as well would also prevent you from uploading more than a couple of videos per month. Then finally, we've got the quota limit. So YouTube's daily quota limit gives you about 6 upload attempts per day. Failed uploads count towards this, so if your workflow's unreliable or you're batch uploading a lot of videos, this is also going to cause you problems. So I've spent literally days testing various approaches to get around these 3 problems. But the most reliable solution I've come across is this one. It's really simple to set up, it's free for up to 10 uploads a month. I've been using it for about 2 years across different channels and it's not failed once. So I'll walk you through how to set this up in just a moment, but at a high level, it works by giving you a URL and you just need to send your video file to that URL. You can do that automatically in Zapier, Make, NAN, whatever you're most comfortable with. UploadPost then does lots of clever stuff behind the scenes. That means that you can upload files up to 256 gig with no timeouts or quota issues. So let's walk through the setup. I'm going to be using NAN today because it's what I actually use, and I think for YouTube automation it's the best and the most affordable platform. Same principles apply though if you're using Zapier or Make. So the first thing we're going to do is in Google Drive, you want to create 3 folders. You want to have ready, uploaded, and failed. And when you finish editing a file, you're going to drop it into the ready folder, which is going to trigger your workflow. So you can see I've popped in a video file here just so we can use that for testing. So I'm going to go into NAN, and you might think that the way to trigger this would be to add a Google Drive trigger that monitors that folder and looks for changes. This will work 50% of the time. It's very well documented that the Google Drive trigger in NAN is pretty unreliable. So we're going to basically try and recreate what this trigger is supposed to do. So the first thing we're going to do is add a schedule trigger. And what we're going to do is basically set this to poll Google Drive every hour to see if there are any new files in a specific folder. So then we'll add a Google Drive node and we're going to search for a file and folder. So if it's your first time using NAN, you will need to connect your Google Drive account. So how you do this is you select create new credential, and you're going to need 2 things, a client ID and a client secret. To get these, you'll need to go into Google Cloud Console, create a new project if you don't already have one. So I'll click new project. Let's just call this NAN Google Drive, create that. In the sidebar, go to APIs and services, search for Google Drive API, enable. Then we need to go to the OAuth consent screen, go through this. Let's just say NAN Google Drive, give it an email. It's for internal use. Pop my email in here, click next, agree, continue. You only have to do this once, by the way. Once this is set up, you're all done. So we then need to click on clients, add a new client. It's going to be a web application. And what you need to do is in NAN, you need to copy this OAuth redirect URL. And we need to add that in here. Then if we hit save, that should give you your client ID and your client secret. So if we pop that in here, client ID, client secret, copy, pop that in there like that. Click sign in with Google, give it permissions. That should all be working. So if we go out of that, now we just need to tell it which folder to monitor. So I'm going to search for the ready folder. We'll select that. We'll execute the step, just see what it comes back with, and we can see that it's found that one file called test.mp4. So that's working nicely. We now need to add our UploadPost node. So we're going to just search for UploadPost. We want to upload a video. So this is where you need to connect your UploadPost account. So if you haven't done this already, you'll need to create an account on UploadPost, hit create new credential, and in UploadPost, you want to go to API key and copy that key. Drop that in there and that should connect. Then we want the operation to be upload a video. And the user identifier is going to be the name of the profile that you create in UploadPost. So you can just click add profile. I like to keep this as the channel name. Click add profile and then connect it to your YouTube account by clicking YouTube, select your YouTube email and then the channel that you want to connect. That's going to then give it permission to upload into that channel. And that's all done. So you can then just take that profile and drop it in on NAN. The platform is going to be YouTube. Now the title, I'm just going to put test here for now. We're going to fix this up in a moment. And the video file, what we're going to do is pop in this link. I'll leave this in the description below, but we need to change the ID that we've got here to the ID that we got from the search node. So we just drag that and we need to drop that in so that it's after the equals sign. So now if I were to run that, that should upload that file. So let's just run a quick test. Okay, so we can see that that uploaded, and if I go into my account, we can see that the test has been uploaded and that's all worked absolutely fine. So let's talk about the title, because how we do this is also going to kind of inform how we get things like description and tags. So I'm going to assume that you've got somewhere, ideally a spreadsheet with information on the titles for each of your videos that we can go and look up. So we're going to add a node before our upload post node where we're going to go and look for that information. So in my case, I use Airtable. We've got this spreadsheet here and you can see that each row represents a video and we've got columns for things like titles, tags, descriptions, etc. So very important. You can see on the left here, we've got VID, video ID. This is unique for each video. And in my Google Drive, when I export a video, I make sure that in the file name, I add that ID corresponding to the row in my Airtable. So this is really important because we need to have some connection between the video file itself and each row in our spreadsheet. So how we're going to do this is we're going to first get that ID from the video file. Now you can add a code node to do this, or if you aren't comfortable with that, you can use AI transform and you can just tell it what you're trying to do and it will write the code for you. But in this case, I'm just going to go to code, stick this code in, which basically looks at the file name and extracts the number of that video ID. So if we go to our ready file and I give this a, let's just call this video 10. Now, if we just run that node, we'll see it's got video 10 test.mp4. Now, if we run this node, this should return just the number 10. There we go. So now we've got that, we can go to Airtable and we're going to search for a record. So I'll just select the table that I'm using and I'm just going to enter VID equals and then drag this over. So now if we execute that step, it should return information on that row from Airtable. So we can see it's returned all this information. And now if we go to our upload post node, we should just be able to drag some of that information over. So we can drag the title, we can drag the tags, and then the description. I'm also going to set the privacy status here to private. We can add a separate workflow later to automatically schedule this, but I like to kind of keep it at this point private. So now if we execute this, that should upload it. There we go. And if we go to our account, we should see that it's uploaded it this time with the title, the description, and we should also have the tags in there if I scroll down here. Tags are in, and we should also have the visibility, there we go, set as private. So next, very important, we need to make sure that once our video is uploaded, we move that file into our uploaded folder. Otherwise, this workflow is going to run every hour and keep uploading that video. So we're going to add a Google Drive node, and we want the move file action. We're then going to drag the ID of the Google Drive video file, this one here, drag it in here like that. And for the folder, we're just going to set that as the uploaded folder that we created earlier. So we'll select that, and that's all done. Now, there's a few more improvements and upgrades we can make to this workflow to make it a bit smarter, but I want to first touch on why this automation is so important. So automating your uploads is not really about the time it saves you, because frankly, it doesn't take that much time to drag a video file and drop it into the YouTube interface. It's about what it enables you to automate next. You saw earlier how by automating this step, we were able to create a connection between this ID in our planning sheet and the live published YouTube video. It turns out creating a connection between this ID and our planning ID is pretty crucial for so many different YouTube automations. This enables you to automate title A/B testing, analytics, sending pinned comments, and so many other things that collectively will save you a lot of time. So for me, this is one of the most crucial automations because it creates a bridge between everything I did before the video went live and everything that happens after it goes live, and allows me to automate things that cross that bridge. Now, I'm currently putting together a complete YouTube automation system that includes all of my workflows, including this one. If you want to check that out, I'll drop a link in the description. But coming back to the point about that bridge, we need to make sure that our workflow updates that planning sheet with our live YouTube URL so that we have that bridge, we have that connection. So what I'm going to do here in our workflow is first I'm going to add a wait node. The reason I'm doing this is because it might take a few minutes for the upload post node to run. So we want to just wait a couple of minutes, make sure that's worked and it comes back with a YouTube URL. So I'm just going to give that maybe 3 minutes, let's say. And we're then going to update our Airtable or whatever you're using to plan your content. We just want to update that record. And what we're going to do is we're going to update the ID and we want to send the YouTube URL. So let's select that here. And I'm just going to go to upload post. One thing to be aware of with this workflow is that particularly if you're on the free upload post tier, you're only going to get 10 credits a month. So you don't want to keep running this workflow to test it because that's going to use up all your API credits. So a handy thing in NAN is if you select the bit that you want to copy, you can then click this and select copy item path. Then in our Airtable, we can just paste that down here like that, select expression, and you can see that's then pasted our YouTube URL. So now if we were to run that, that would update that row in our Airtable with a link to that YouTube video. And there we have that connection between our planning ID and our live YouTube URL. So a few more things you may want to set up here. The first is what happens if this has any kind of error. So in NAN, you can add an error trigger. You will need to, in the settings for this workflow, make sure that you've set your error workflow to run this. So I'm just going to select that as tutorial YouTube upload, hit save. And now if there's an error with any of these nodes, it's going to trigger this. So all we now want to do here is duplicate our search files and folder node, connect that like that, and then take this node, we'll duplicate that, and we're going to pass that in like that. Now we just need to connect all the IDs together. So if we just run that, get some data in there, then hopefully we can just drag in the ID of the file. And instead of moving it to the uploaded folder, we're going to move it to failed. Click that, and that should now work. So the reason why this is important is the same reason why we added this one over here is you don't really want any video files sat in that ready folder indefinitely, because otherwise this workflow is going to keep trying to upload them. So either it worked and we move it into uploaded, or it didn't and we move it into the failed folder. We can then kind of look at it manually, work out what went wrong, and then update our workflow accordingly. Now, a few other things you may want to add. One is to add a notification. So you could send yourself a message on Slack or Gmail, etc., to notify you that it's been uploaded. Another option if you're working on multiple channels would be to add a switch node. So you could add this in probably after your Airtable. And then in your Airtable, if you've got the channel that that video is for, you could take that into the switch node, and then you could then just add routes for like channel A, channel B, channel C, etc. So that's going to be handy if you're running a portfolio of channels. Another thing that's probably worth doing is adding in some filtering and data cleansing nodes to make sure that you don't accidentally, for example, send the same video to be uploaded 20 times. So one idea here would be it could kind of go after any node to be fair, but you could add, for example, a remove duplicates node, and you could say remove items processed in a previous execution. You then just need to give it some ID to dedupe on. So in my case, I probably just pull in that VID number that it gets from the code node and dedupe on that. But you could also do it based on the file name, for example. So if you run into any issues with any of this, let me know in the comments and I'll do my best to help. Otherwise, now that you've automated your uploads from Google Drive to YouTube, there's a lot of cool things that you can do. Most logical, I think, would be to automate titles and descriptions so that when you run this workflow, you can populate them here. So I tested a bunch of different approaches for automatically generating titles with AI. That video is up next. It builds on this workflow as part of this series on YouTube automation. You can watch that here.